Welcome back to your weekly roundup of everything that happened in Zenless Zone Zero, where we will cover everything that you missed inside and outside of the game. First up, of course, is the big new announcement of the new event that's going to be starting on the 21st of August. And that is going to be the Camellia Golden Week, which is going to essentially be New Eridu's version of a summer festival. Now, in order to participate in this event, you will have to have cleared the main chapter story number 3, the Midnight Pursuit. But if you haven't done that yet, don't worry, you have plenty of time, as this event will be running, like I said, from August 21st all the way up until September 23rd, which is also my birthday. Nice. Now, like most of the events so far, the Camellia Golden Week event will be split up into multiple phases that will be unlocked over time, so you will not be able to blitz through everything on day one. Alternatively, you could wait for like all the phases to be unlocked and then do them all in one go later on, but that's up to you. During this event, we'll be able to experience some new story commissions as well as hollow areas. In fact, we saw a bit of this in the 1.1 patch livestream, where it does look like there's going to be a nice, interesting use case of the TV system, so don't worry, the TVs are back, but it looks like they are going to be cooking something fun with them at least. Now, something to note though is that they do mention that as the event progresses, proxies will be able to enjoy exclusive limited event coffees. Now, what those coffees are, we don't know yet. Personally, I would love if these were like double basic material coffees, like double Denny's or double character XP and stuff like that. But also, each proxy can apparently try up to 3 coffees during the event. Now, the wording on this is a bit vague, so I don't know if this means that we will be able to use like 3 different coffees, as in like get 3 different energy boosts in a day, because that does seem kind of wild, especially if it is for the entire event, like the month-long event. Or maybe they just mean that the 3 exclusive event coffees are going to be available throughout the event. I would love if it was the former though, but we'll just have to wait and see what exactly that entails. Otherwise though, as for the rewards, this is going to be how you will acquire the new A-rank attacking engine, the Gilded Blossom, which, if you are curious as to how this event engine will stack up against the Starlight engine, I do have a video that compares the two, so maybe you want to check that out after this. Otherwise though, we will also be able to acquire some polychromes, upgrade materials, and the hamster cage pass. Again, this is what you will use to unlock the highest levels of a character's skill. Otherwise though, speaking of rewards, do you want to win either a PlayStation 5, a Razer Black Widow V3 keyboard, or a Bangbu phone holder? Well, if you do, you should probably head over to the Zenless Zone Zero official Discord server, where there is currently an event called the Ethereal Brawl, which runs until August 21, so not a lot of time left, but don't worry, it's very easy to enter. All you have to do is go to the Ethereal Brawl channel in the Discord and react with the bat to help QingYi defeat one of these ethereals. Otherwise though, moving on to some in-game stuff, it was recently a new weekly reset, and if you have not yet checked your Hollow Zero, you might be surprised to see that there has been a change to how the Hollow Zero weekly challenge works, specifically with the number of clears that you need to get all of the rewards. Previously, you would have to do up to 5 different clears to get all of the polychromes as well as the Z merits. Now you only have to do 2, one for the polychromes and then another one for the Z merit rewards. We also have another Twitter event where you can win 100 polychromes, and all you have to do is go to the tweeted link that is in the description below, take a screenshot of the GIF as it scrolls around QingYi's mindscape, and then make a post with your results. This little Twitter event will run up until the August 23rd. Next up, I have some good news and some bad news. The bad news is that for those of you with QingYi, she might be bugged. The good news is that this means we could all get free polychromes as a reward for this though. The bug was reported by Mega Battler over on the Zenless Zone Zero official Reddit, and essentially the issue is that when you try and dodge while doing her basic attack 3, so the get done dance, sometimes she is still able to be hit during this dodge counter, which you should always be invulnerable though. So I can only imagine how badly this would ruin up a Dispute no Chi defense with QingYi, as those guys do hit very hard. But when it comes to MiHoYo and fixing bugs and patches in the game, they normally just give very vague responses and they don't really detail exactly what happened. So if you do see a bug fix that relates to QingYi, it is very likely this that will be fixed. Also, there is a new redemption code that you can use if you haven't already known about this, and that is BANDP43VWC7H. Using this code will get you 60 polychromes as well as 6,666 Denny's. Why exactly that specific number, we do not know, but it is the number of Mr. Beast himself. And I mean, every Denny counts. Next up, we're going to roam a little bit further outside of the official sources of information, and we're going to go over to some potential leaks of 1.2. As we all know, MiHoYo have shown off both Bernice and Caesar, and so far it has just been their introductions. However, there are videos that have surfaced that show off both Bernice and Caesar's kits. But not only that, there's some other things that are potentially going to be coming in patch 1.2 along with Bernice and Caesar are the potential of a new Bangbu. This is very likely going to be the baddie boo that we find in the 1.1 story with Jane Doe. At least I hope it is, because baddie boo looks pretty badass. Otherwise though, there is also speculation of 2 new disc sets, which I mean is kind of to be expected, right? Like I predicted this already before. This has happened both in Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, so So the question about what those two disc sets do is up in the air though. It is very likely going to be things that revolve around both Bernice and Caesar, as those are the two that will be introduced in that patch. But of course though, these are just rumors and none of this is guaranteed to be set in stone. So take that with a grain of salt. So I'm not going to complain. Personally, if I had to take a guess as to what these two sets are, they are probably going to be fine-tuned specifically for Caesar and Bernice, but I imagine one will be a benefit to, say, having a shielded character, as we have seen similar sets like this, like I said, in Genshin Impact and Star Rail, where the best offense is a good defense after all. And as for the other set, which is what I would imagine be for Bernice, this is very likely going to be something that is specifically either around Disorder itself, because in my opinion, a lot of the elemental sets right now, they don't really work for Anomaly and Disorder teams. They really work for Hypercarry teams. As right now, in all of the 4-piece sets, they sort of require the target to have the elemental anomaly for that suited element. So for example, Shock or Burn or Corrupted and whatnot. But of course, they want you to keep that anomaly on them, right? And the whole point of Disorder is that you overwrite it. So for example, Flame Metal gives a huge 28% crit rate boost attacking burning enemies, but you can't really make the most out of that when you instantly remove the burn by triggering Disorder. So seeing a Disorder related set or some anomaly related set like that isn't reliant on a specific element would be very nice to see, something similar to Freedom Blues essentially. Otherwise though, with it being a week since patch 1.1 has come out, I would like to think that most of the people have sort of gone through all of the main story, the agent story and the undercover RNB side story featuring Jane Doe. So I think by now everybody has made their opinions on it, and aside from the fact that everybody's gooning over Jane, I think the big consensus, at least from my experience as well as seeing the community poll that I did, is that despite everybody really enjoying Jane, the actual story itself did seem kind of, I don't want to say lacking, but it did seem rather short in the fact that I think a lot of people were expecting the 1.1 story with Jane to be like a main story and not a side story, which I guess in hindsight they were constantly advertising this as a side story or like an agent story or a special mission rather than a story mission. But I think I, as well as a lot of other people, were sort of expecting at least a little bit more involvement from Phaethon with Jane and the whole of the police force, right? But I guess the excuse is that by being able to play as Jane through her eyes, we get to walk around with her and ogle her as she walks. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it felt sort of like, I don't know if we'll ever be able to get a chance for the Neps to shine, as in the base game, we only really got a short intermission with QingYi and Shuyen, and then now we don't even get to really interact with Seth or Jane Doe ourselves, and we just sort of saw their own side story, which we don't really ever interact with. So if we ever see them in the main game, it's going to be like, oh, I remember meeting you once, and that's about it. My only hope though is that for 1.2, I'm sure it won't be the same though. I'm sure there'll be a lot of story to go into with the Sons of Caledon, as they did exclusively state that we're going to the Outer Ring to meet them. And also we know that Pearlman escaped the Outer Ring from the main story. But that is all to say though that don't worry if you feel like there was a bit of a lack in the amount of story that we got for 1.1, as that does seem to be quite the general consensus. Otherwise though, that is going to be it for this week's news roundup of Zenless Zone Zero. As always, if you found this useful, liking, commenting and subscribing is greatly appreciated. So until next time, bye bye.